Hello guys, so welcome to the stream. So today we're going to be writing a bit of some backend, and I'll be using Typescript and so we'll build it with Typescript, Drizzle. So I found Drizzle quite interesting, so I'm going to explore what Drizzle has to offer, and I just hope things will get interesting, and hopefully we'll be able to like get something out of this. Just hope everything is okay in terms of sound. Just confirm if everything is working okay. So it's working well, and I can continue the stream. So where do we start? I'll just open up my terminal. Let me adjust the size of this but I don't take up much space on the screen. I think that's enough. This other one too. So we have like smaller space to be taken by my video or the camera, and have more room for recording. So what I usually do, let me just make this larger. So I'll just zoom in and make sure I have optimal size for the terminals. Then I'll just head over to the desktop. So from the desktop, I'll just need to create a simple directory, simple express backend. Then I'll just add yes here. So then I'll open it in VS Code, then close this other one. So with me, I'm using Zorin OS. Looks like Ubuntu, but I love the feel and look. So starting off, how I get started is to usually first, we need to initialize this project. So we'll run npm init. This will ask us a series of questions, and I don't want to answer this. So what I'll do, I'll just add -y to autocomplete. So what this does is to create a virtual environment for this folder, so that for someone who's worked with Python, you know, you create a virtual environment, then you install your dependencies in there. In Node.js or JavaScript ecosystem, we use npm, pnpm, yarn, burn. So those package managers require a file known as package.json to be able to know where to locate the project and its dependencies. So currently, what you can see here, we just filled the name, the version, the main file, and a simple script here and a keyword. So you can edit this, you can just edit this to make sure that there are so many fields that can be added here. So I won't go into that because my focus is more on the building the backend. So because this is something really fresh, I like making sure that whatever I build is very easy to use, and we plug in some other things. So our start off is to, because this is a TypeScript project, I have a couple of things that I like doing. So one of them is to first create a tsconfig.json. But before that, I'll just create a folder known as src. Inside the source, I'll add a file known as index.ts. So this index.ts will serve as our entry point for the application. So with this, I'll add, because npm is quite slow, so I'll use either npm or yarn, but I prefer yarn. So if you don't have yarn, you can use npm install, then you add a global flag to install yarn, or pnpm if you so wish. So with me, I have yarn already installed. To confirm if you have it, just run yarn version. Then it should be able to print out the version for yarn. So once you have yarn installed, I'll just run yarn install add. So how we install with yarn, we just install with add. So yarn add, I think we have express 5, so I won't go with express 5. So I'll try and see what we have. Express.js. So with Express.js, let me see which version is going to be installed. Express. There's some few changes which are on Express. So we still have Express 4. So that's good. It won't interfere with whatever knowledge we had. If you're just joining, welcome to the stream. And if you have any questions, you can just share in the chats. I'll be able to answer. So once we have express, we need TypeScript, -d, TypeScript. We also need TS node. This is now for running TypeScript. So this will be running our TypeScript. Then just press enter. So that was fast, very fast. And you see, when we install something, there are dependencies and dev dependencies. So dev dependencies are those that we use for development, and dependencies are those which we have to use in the production environment. So that means they're carried through to production. So dev dependencies are only needed for dependencies. Also, we have peer dependencies, which maybe just depends only on the project scope dependencies. So let's see. So I have TypeScript installed. Next is to add. So I'll need to create a tsconfig.json. So to make it quick, I usually write npx tsconfig.json. Then that will invoke a CLI that will generate a sample tsconfig.json, which is a simple tool that will just generate the tsconfig.json for us. Last time I tried to use it on Windows, it failed because of the cross platform issue. So I'll go with Node.js. So that will create tsconfig.json here. Next up is to set up what is known as our dev script. So our dev script, what we need on this is to make sure that whatever we're building on is working well. So what I'll need to do is to add nodemon, which is a really useful utility tool for working with your application. So if you're working with TypeScript or just Node, you can use this to watch over your files. But with the current version of Node, it automatically watches the files for you if you pass the watch flag. So for now, I'll just go with the TS node and nodemon to do this. So in the root of our directory, we'll create a file known as nodemon.json. So nodemon.json, it will just take a normal JSON format. Then I'll add a watch field. This is an array which will watch for our source folder, and so this, however deep this is, should watch for all the TS files. Next, we should watch for any file that we should be watched for. I'll add .env in case the environment variables changes. Then I think next is if we have any other file, we'll add it here. So configure, just use the JSON, normal JSON. Next, txt. So here I'll use the TS, but I can just use JS. If your project is so large, then you can transpile it, then watch for JS files. So whatever you're going to be ignoring, if you have tests, so anything test file, spec files, anything JIT, node modules, and also logs. We'll also have coverage, VS Code, any idea in case you're using IntelliJ. Then lastly, we'll need logs. So also public, we don't need to watch. So we need to add here a delay. So a delay of 2. Then we'll just add an exec. Exec map, which will be yes. Which will be just use node. So then we'll exec. In the exec, we'll run node. So this will run the transpile version of this application. So we'll go to our dist, then index.js. So depending on what are the folder structure, then we should be able to do the task. Next, in our scripts, we'll need to add dev. So after adding dev, we'll need to add a tsdev. So tsdev should be able to watch for our files. So next, before that, I'll need to set up what is known as type aliases. This is to make sure that whatever it is that we are writing, we have a bit of ease in our imports. So type aliases usually look something of this kind. So there's just a lot of settings around this, and if you have this kind of import, you just know it's something which is not quite interesting. If you have really deep folders, so to mitigate this, you can use something of this kind. So just use the @ symbol for referencing a given folder, then it should be able to replace everything. So we can start building on that. So Where we get started is TS patch. Actually, look on TS patch. It's very actively developed. So I like this tool because if you see here, I'm also one of the contributors in this. So it's not like I like also contributing to the community and building. So I think there's so many things you can do to open source, and I can say for the greater part of it, yeah, adding something which is tangible isn't that bad, but being part of this project is really awesome, being that it's also supported by some great company. So check on it. This is the one who's been developing this for a very long time. Let's get this installed. So installation, so I'll use yarn add p. So we add a TS patch. So once TS patch is installed, then we need another plugin known as Typescript transform paths. So this one here will be helping us transforming the paths in our TS config. So to make sure that everything is working well, what we'll need to do, we'll have to go here. We first need to install this. This one is also actively developed. You can see the downloads is almost same level. That is this is at 183 to 13. This is at 180. So that means they're developed almost at similar rate, and that's something which is really great. So I'll just copy this, copy that, then get back to the terminal. Then instead of using npm, I'll just run yarn add so dev dependency. So once we have that dev dependency installed, next we need to set our tsconfig.json. So we have base URL here. Then I can set up the alias, which will be paths. Then in the paths here, what I'll need to add is to add that. So this will make sure that this one will be replaced with the absolute URL of our source folder. So just to highlight an example here, let's say I have a config, then I have an index.ts. Inside here, I can export maybe const conf, which will be just a simple object. Then in the index, I'll just import config conf from config, and can also use this, and that will make it even simpler. So that's how simple it is to do this. So then what I can do here is to just add, maybe have these values here. Then out here I just log and log conf or conf. So when we log our conf, we come to this point. We need to adjust our tsconfig so that it's able to adjust to point to all the details that we want. So that means in our tsconfig, we'll need to make sure that we add some values. So we've already added the utils. We'll need to add the plugins section, which will I'll just take this. This is plugins. Place it here. So plugins is not part of compiler options. Make sure you take note of that. So I've just copied directly from the documentation. Next is to add some types. So we need to point types here. Figure to normal JSON. Then we can add types. Can add types here. Then we add node. So to make node types globally available, we can add also at types node, so that the types are available globally when we add them here. So we've added node already. Next is to add something which is very necessary. Above here we'll just add ts node, then specify here transpile only to true. Then afterwards we'll make require then we'll add Typescript transform paths, then / register. This should be able to do the magic. Once that is in place, what next do we need? I need us to this is just the initial setup for this project. So after this, we need to set up our TS package JSON so that we are able to transpile this project. So meaning what we do here is to go to a package.json, then add our dev script. So you remember we added TS patch. So TS patch, how we use it, we'll need to specify here TS patch so that it's able to understand whatever we are building on. So ESPC, that is now the TS patch. Then we specify the project. The project now specify the tsconfig.json. config JSON, then -watch. So that will run our development environment. Then you can just try and dev. Then you can see it is in watch mode. So the project is running and you can see we have our index.js here and everything has been transpiled very well. So this means everything is working correctly and it's able to resolve the paths correctly. So I can just add something here. Let's say we'll add it later. So once that is in place, we need to like run these things into like in parallel, so that we run the JavaScript and transpile the TypeScript. So we watch for TypeScript changes, then we run the JavaScript. So then what we need to do is to set up a script which will now be running our node. So how do we do that? We come back here, then we can just write here start dev. So start dev, what it will do is to just run nodemon. So if we just write nodemon, it will try to look for nodemon.json so that it uses the config which we've specified in the file. So I'll have this as tsdev. In the meantime, I'll add concurrently. So concurrently will help us to run multiple scripts in one go. So that we're able to like be able to run these multiple scripts and be able to come out with something which is really fast. So then if we now run yarn dev, we'll be able to see we're in compile mode, and if I try change something here, let's try see. So what file are we looking at? Beast in so let's install .env. So .env will help us to load environment variables. So in the config here, I'll import config from .env env-conf. So then I'll just call env-conf. So this will load the environment variables before we try and pull them this other side. So let's try and see. So for now, what we can do is to let me just have it as simple. Let's try and, because this is a simple project, we'll adjust it with time. If it's so huge, then we can just, then for this one, yes node, we'll just use TS node, then we can run what is not fun. Okay, so we don't have, do we have node one installed? I didn't have node one installed. So we have node one. Let's restore this. So once we have that in place, just run dev. Then you'll see we are in watch mode, and everything is transpiled on this other side. So that means everything is working okay. Next, what we need is to set up our project. So how I usually do things, I'll have a server, then create an index. Yes, yeah. From there, I'll import create server from HTTP, then just create a server. Is equals to create server. So this will need some things here. Then I'll just export server. So that's how simple that will be. If I have something to deal with WebSockets, I'll be there. Next, I need to create a folder known as app. This will now be containing the Express app. So then we can have setup .ts. Then you can have our app. Yes. Or just index. Yes. So what this will do in our setup, I'll export a function which will set up so this will set up our Express app. So we need some properties to be passed here. Let's say props. So we'll have app, which will point to application. So this application, it's not really available here. So let's see. I'll need to add here add the at types express. So because we have Express 5 already released, that means some things might already be pointing somewhere new. So types Express. So we have version 5. So I want to install version 5. I think I'll go with the 7 version. Go with the yeah, go with this. So to install a specific version, you'll just add here at, then add the version number, then install. So this will install the types for Express, and I'll be able to import them. Yeah. So import application from Express, and you'll be able to see we have it here. Then now I can just pass my props as props. With that is done, then we can just, because it's already exported, that's what we need there. In here we'll import Express from Express, then create an Express app, then export app. So once we have our app exported, we can just come back to our server. Here's the server. Then we pass our app here. Then you can see whatever we had set up on this end. Now we are using the at instead of the long chain of imports, and you can see our list is really reflecting what we have here. So something that I almost forgot about is to add paths. So I like having my path pointing directly from the root. So for that, I will need to install a plugin known as find root. Yeah, so that I'm able to like resolve from the root directory of this application. So I'll just write here and add. This is not a dev dependency, so we need to add its types for root. Then now I'll create a folder, because you can see this is replicating the folder structure we have in our source directory. So I'll need to add a file known as paths. Yes. So in our path, we'll import path from path. Then we'll also import .env config from .env. Then we can just call the config or env conf. Then we can just call it there. Next is to we need to get our base directory. So const base, if you're someone who's worked with Django, you'll see there's something like base directory. So I'll just have base directory. I think I'll disable copilot. Disable base dir. It will be find root. This will be find root from find root. Then now we'll pass our underscore directory underscore dir. This is a global variable which points to the directory of the file you have or you are working on currently. So then what we need to do is we can export this folder, this directory. So with this, if you have this base directory, meaning you have paths, so export const paths, which should now be pointing to our directories. But as you can see here, Typescript is not aware of this file, and even if I try to import anything to it, there's nothing which says that I'm able to import anything from the other files. So next we need to add a utility here, resolve path, which will be taking a base directory, base, which will be a string. Then we'll have a series of other paths. So we'll spread a paths, which will be string. Then all we need to do here is to return a path dot resolve. Yeah. Then now we add a path join base. Then now we can pass a series of that. This should be an arrow function. So what we passed here is a string. So we'll spread this so that we have the paths spread. So that is the convention for this. Once we spread this, then we can just once we have that spread, so instead of having this, then we can just put the base directory. Yeah, but for utility reuse purposes, it's best we have this where you can just pass your base directory, then you spread the paths. So I'll need to use this somewhere. So if now I try to import it into here, you can see I can't import anything. So what I need to do, come to tsconfig.json, then instead of just including whatever is in the source, then I can just include the paths.ts, or I can just specify it as paths.ts. Once I have this in place, then now you'll see our directory structure will change. Okay. So if now I come back to here, you can see I'm able to import paths side, and it's able to get it. So what we need to do is so this will be imported actually from, I'll use a relative path. So with this, we'll also need to install a special plugin a rimref, which is used for cleaning folders. So I'll add a script here known as clean. So this will be rimref dist, because we are using dist. So then if you're going to build, then we'll have a pre-build. Pre-build. We should be telling us rimref so we yarn clean. Then if we build, so when we're building, we'll run this, but not with the watch flag. That. Then we can run our yarn build. That should be able to clean the dist, and you'll see we have paths. Then we have a replication that on this other end. So for the paths, I think we can also have resolve. Then what is the issue here? In the setup, you can see we have props, and you can import express there, then just say app, and structure app, then say app.use express.json. Then we can use URL encoded, just that. Then we just export it. So once that is in place, we can try and rebuild. So it will clean. After cleaning, then it will build. You can see now we have something which is cleaner. So with that in place, all I'll need is to because we are able to build this, that means already set up here. So I need, because I'm going to use TypeScript, it doesn't make sense to just write code with the TypeScript without really using classes. So I'm more of a functional programmer, but with TypeScript, it's kind of intuitive to just use classes. So using OOP is quite interesting. So other things we need to set up in place, like dependency injection, and so on and so forth. So we just need to get this up first to run, then test everything. Afterwards, we'll set up the issues with the dependency injection and how to put them up. So first, we have our server, we have our config, we also have our application here. So we have the setup. So for the Express, I'll just run a setup. Setup, Express app. Then I'll pass my app here. So once that is in place, I've exported it to server and passed Express instance to our create server. That means now the handling traffic for us. So getting back here, everything is working well. So you can see no errors found, which is okay. Because we have no errors, that means everything is able to build well. Next is to, I don't think we will have chat services, but if there will be, then you can just add sockets. Won't add that for now. What I like doing is to create my API folder. Then I'll have my, say, v1.ts. So the v1.ts will be just a simple function which will be just called v1. Reason why I like this format is because if I need to upgrade my application, I can just add here v2.ts. Then I just work in parallel with these versions. So that's some advantage I get with this kind of structure. So it's a bit flexible. So I'll just delete this version 2. With the v1, it will return a router instance. So it's router equals to router, which is from Express. So then we'll just return so once that is in place, then in our setup in the app here, we'll say app.use, then we specify API v1. Okay, then we can specify our v1 here. We'll just import it in that manner. Then it should be able to give us the router instance, and that should be able to be handling traffic for us. So let's try if this is working. Router get. We have our request, my response. Then we have our next. I won't have next. It should be done here. And send status should be 200. Just send status code of 200 and good. This will not run immediately, so we'll need to import server. Then from here we can server listen. Then we need our config to give us the port. So API port. This will point to, let's have it as 8080. So process tnv dot what for 8080. So once we have the API port, next is to let's remove these other ones. Come back to our server. Then you can have a function here known as on listening. On listening. So this usually has maybe an error. This error might be any error. Then you can just we can say log. Then you can set our message will be this. We can add colors to it, but let's just say server listening on HTTP localhost. Then we can specify the port there. Then now we can import our config. Config dot API port. So with that, we can pass it to pass the message here. Then now we can come to the index. Then we have our on listening. Then we can pass conf dot API port. And now we can just pass on listening. So on listening, don't take any arguments. That should name. So request is declared but value never used. So with this, I'll need to come to tsconfig, change non-used parameters to false, and that should fix that. Back to our index.js, you'll see this is imported and not used. I'll just move it and should be able. So if we start, so let's have our start script. So if you're starting, so we can have pre-start. So pre-start will run here and build. Then start will run node list src index.js. So you can run here and start. So should be able to build the building. So we have an issue here with module not found error. So we have module not found error for app. Let's see what might be the issue. Let's rebuild it. So you have our app there. Press up. What did I not do right? Specify the server. Okay, so should be transforming this, should be transforming this for the build. It should be able to transform this to something else. So let me try in the build. Yeah, interesting. Can't find app. Um, get back to just conf. Let's see. How do you make sure? How do you build this? So let's see. Let's see what's it's not. Hello, Coda Blip. Oh, something is not right somewhere. Check. Let me see. Let me add this script. The live compiler patches on the fly each time it runs. By command and simply use TSPC instead of TSC. With tools such as tsnode, webpack, specify the compiler. Method 2, persistent tspatch modifiers, TypeScript installation with add prepare script, version. Okay. Let's try that. Let's build start. So I need this to transpile. Add add transformers to compile options in. Let's check with. This is getting interesting. Well, this should work as is, and I don't know why. Let me check up a project, sample project. Let me see what's there. So, okay. This works well. Let me try, instead of the live one, we have the dev running. Let's run the dev and see whether it works well. So it shouldn't transpile which, or do I have a different version? Which version am I having? Three point 1.5, 3.5. They're one and the same, and see what I might be missing. Let me see the plugin section. In quite a while since I worked this. See. Just interesting. So first, let me, okay, plugins should be in the compile option section. Paste it here, then move these types above. So if we go server, yep, nice. So that was the issue actually. So not having the what just happened? What just happened? No, 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 no. So let's try yarn start. Should be able to build clean body process deprecated. Yeah, and you can see now we have server listening on this. That means everything is working great. So what's next? For you to understand what was going on here, I need to, let me just clean up these JavaScript files. So for the case where we had issues with this one not working, I had taken the plugins out of the compile options section, so that's why it wasn't compiling. So now that I have moved everything into the compile option, it's now working as expected. So if I run my yarn build, you should be able to see some difference in whatever we had. So we come here to source server. We imported the app using the art, and you can see now this has been transformed to something different, which is this relative path. So that's the role of the TSPC that we are using here. So that's really something amazing about this. Next, we already set up our backend. So next thing is to we need the source maps only if we are in development and not when you're in production. So we need to, because when you're doing, if you're going to be doing tests or writing tests or doing a debug, you can't trace the lines if you don't have source maps. So when you're doing your development, you need the source maps you can emit. So that means we can have multiple TS configs. So what I usually do is to just copy whatever is existing so that we have a dev version of it. So for the dev version, what so you can duplicate this so that we have .dev. So the .dev version will take out everything here. Then we'll just have extends. So it's extending from the main, which is the ts config. Ts config .json. So source maps, compiler options. We'll have source maps true. So then you can also have declaration also to true. So this will emit the types and the source maps. But now when we'll be in development, if you're building for production, then we need to see source maps. We have source maps here. So we'll disable source maps to false. We'll make it false so that we don't generate source maps when we are. Let me just do this. Then we shouldn't have the source map, just pure files. Then if we start, we're able to clean everything, and you'll see we have something which is clean, no source maps, no declaration. So what we'll need to do is to specify if you are in development mode, then we'll use the dev, just dev, then I will specify .dev. Then we can try and run dev. this should be able to generate declarations and source maps. So instead of generating source maps like that, I'll specify here in the dev that will generate inline source maps. So comment this out. Then we have inline. Then inline sources. I'm not sure what this means. We have, so then if I rerun it, so let me unclaim. So then we can yarn dev yeah. Then you'll have the source maps inline. So once that is in place, all we need to so this is so this is how this works now. The server is already up. Let's see whether we can get something off this server. Localhost 8080. Nothing is working. So this should point to SRC, not just node that. So we run dev. Let's see why this is not meanwhile for now we can just run the TypeScript directly. So okay, let's see the development version. Yes, dev. I'm not sure why this isn't printing. So if I am start, should be able to clean everything. After cleaning everything, should print server running on this port. But why is it on now running the development version? It's not pointing to where we want it to point to. So let me just let me see if I can find something around it. Let me see this. Ah, nice, 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 nice. So, okay. Fortunately or unfortunately, we have to pass the watch flag for this so that it's able to watch for the file changes, then able to pick these. So okay, for the parser deprecated and yeah. So we've deprecated body parser is deprecated. So because that is working, let's try out whatever we had here. API one. Yep, and it's working. So we got an OK, meaning our API is receiving, and we able now to receive requests. So next thing is to set up something for dependency injection. We'll use not typedi. I'll be using Inversify. So Inversify is a dependency injection tool, which is used by some of the big companies, and its downloads you can see is remarkable. So I'll just need to install Inversify. So I can add Inversify and reflect metadata. If you're new here, please don't hesitate to subscribe, leave a like, and comment. So install Inversify. So once you have Inversify installed, we'll need to make sure that these two flags are enabled. Experimental decorators and emit decorator metadata true. So I come to my, let me just roll back where we were initially, src, then hyphen watch, see whether these will still work. That's still working. So we have Inversify installed. And now we want to confirm if those two flags are enabled. Just config, come to emit this is true, emit decorator metadata is also true. So we are good to go. Let's see how you get started with Inversify. Only once the reflect metadata polyfill should be imported only once in the entire application because the reflect object is meant to be global single. More detail about this to be found here. Area. Let's see. So import injectable effect. So Inversify is I don't know whether it's the easiest, but okay. I found it really easy on my end using it. So I'll just write on what I have. So I'll create a folder known as di. So create a folder known as di. Then So in our index here, I will import reflect. So once reflect is imported, we need to have PI. So this will help us set up our container. So if we check here, we have the container API for Inversify. This is where now you find a container so that you're able to resolve these dependencies from the container itself. So we just create a single container, then try to resolve your dependencies directly from container. So that's how we'll use this. So moving forward, what I'll need to do here is to let me have it to di. So our dependency injection here will have index.js. So in here we'll import a container from Inversify. Then if you know the concept of decorators, then you shouldn't have an issue with this. So export function. So with this, you can't use an arrow function for this. You must use this syntax. So I'll just have it as a dependency. So the dependency is just a function, factory function that will return a function constructor that takes in arguments of type any. Okay. Then, because this is a constructor, so let's see, miss something there. So it will take t which extends a new. So this is a constructor. So we take in any number of arguments. Then what we return here is any. So return anything. Then here we have a target, which will be a t. Okay. So with this t, so t will be the class. This will be the type constructor. Then now we'll create our container. So for us to create a new container, we just use the constructor method. Container will be new container. So what does this do? So I won't specify anything here. It's for how I did it in other projects. Then all I can do next is to just write container dot bind we're binding type T to the target. We bind the target dot to self. I'm not saying this is the best way to do this, but these are I'm doing it, and it has worked. So with this means that we are able to bind our dependencies. So next is to if you've written React, so React had something known as class components. So because React had class components, I think now they're a bit updated, but it was some kind of interesting error. In this, you'll see we have, like, example, this, the car extends a component, then you have the constructor. In the constructor, you passed super, then now that will call the constructor of the parent component, then now you now pass your state and the props, then you render, you have your render method there. So you have to do it that way, not like the way nowadays we just use hooks. So these ones were stateful, more of stateful. So we also had props there. You used to pass them to the constructor, then you call super on them. If now you are to do something to do with events here, if I come to events, you'll see it's kind of funny how doing this. Not sure if this is a function. So there was a way you, if you had an event, you have to call the dot bind. Okay. So for this, you'll see we have something of this kind of concept. If you had so let's say you had this component which extends this component, you create a method handle click. Then this method is a property of your component. Then now you use this keyword to call pass it. Is this so? Yeah, I think I found where it So when you are creating a class, you create a method, create user, then you also need to assign it in the constructor. That is to say, this dot create user dot bind this. So that was kind of giving context to this is the object where you're supposed to be bound, and using the bind returns the function itself after applying all those other things on it. So more that you can check on call, bind, and apply usages, but we are going to avoid this kind of syntax. With this approach, with this single approach, this will do exactly that. But we want to make it simple so that we do what is known as auto binding. So with auto binding, there's someone who wrote a library for auto bind. Let's go with React. So this React auto bind, and you can see it doesn't have so many, but it was published 9 years ago. Then you can see in the constructor, you just call the auto bind, then you pass the this. Or you can just pass the this, then you pass the methods you want to bind to that object. So with me, I'm going to write this because the code is available here. So let's write this. So with our auto bind, so we'll bind methods and the properties is of a class automatically. So what we'll need to do here is we'll have to export function bound method. So if you're not familiar with this is more of a way for, say here, Typescript decorators. If you have Typescript decorators, if you check on them, you'll see we have factories, decorator factories, and this is their syntax. You use the art here. So we have class decorators, we have method decorators, we also have accessor decorators, property decorators, parameter decorators. So we'll be writing some class decorators. Yeah. In the bound method, we'll pass in a target, which is usually any. Next, we'll need a key, which will be, it's usually a string or symbol. Then we'll need a descriptor, which is a property. Property descriptor. And this will return a property descriptor. And now we'll get the original method. Original method will be descriptor dot value. Then next we check if this is not a function, if the original method is not a function, then we just need to throw an error. A type error and say to bound method decorator only be applied to methods. Otherwise, and not. So you need to use in backticks here. The type of non-method. Now that is in place, then now we can just return configurable then now this is just like a proxy. In the get part, we return a method const bound function will be original method dot bind this. So that means the reason why I said you can't use you can't use arrow functions here because they don't have context. So for us to retain the context, we have to use these normal functions because they're more of constructors. Object define a property on this. Then we pass the key. So that will be the key. Then we return configurable to true. So make configurable true. Then we have the get. So this now will return our bound function. Then now in the set, we need a value. Then now we set object to define property. So we define property, not keys. Yeah, define property on this. Pass the key. Say configurable. Then we pass the value. Third, we say configurable should be, then writable will be true. So once that is in place, we just return the bound function. So we need to return the bound, and that is for method binding. Next, we need to bind a class. Function bound class. So this will take different key. The constructor extends function. Then we have our target, which will be t. So for this, we'll get the property names. The property names will be object dot get property names. So this will be get on property names. That is the target to property. We'll get the prototype. So once we get the property names, that is the, let's say, const symbol keys. Symbol keys will just be type of object dot get on property symbols. On property symbols. Then we get so not equal to function. So this should be unequal, not equal. If it's equal to a function, then we need to return object dot get on symbols. Then we pass target prototype. Else we just return an empty empty list. So we have an array of symbols, then we have the property names, which are strings. So then we'll need to spread all this property names and symbol keys. Then we pass dot for each symbol. So we have the key. So for each of these keys, what we need to do is we check if the name, if key not equal to constructor, if it's not a if the key is not a constructor, then we get the descriptor. Will be a new object would get on property descriptor. On property descriptor. Then we pass target dot prototype. So once we pass the prototype, then we also pass the key. That. So then after getting that, if descriptor, now we check if descriptor dot value and if the descriptor is available, is not null, and it's a function, so type of if it's a function, and now we can just say object dot define property t singular. So on the target prototype, so on this prototype, what we need to do is to pass the key. Afterwards, then we bound method. Pass the bound method, target, and pass the key. Then lastly, we pass the script. Once that is in place, we'll just return the target. Return the target. Once this is in place, then we can just export a function auto bind. So this is now what we'll be using to bind these other methods So this will also will return. We have a T, yeah. So we'll have a target, which will be T. Then that target will have a key, will be a string or symbol. So it will be a string or a symbol. Then you have the descriptor. So this will be a property descriptor. Script. So once you have this, this means that we'll now pass the other values that we had earlier. This I'll just make them optional. Then now we need to check if key is undefined, then and the descriptor is also undefined. If all are undefined, so we have all these as undefined, then we return a bound class. So for the bound class, we'll just pass the target. Otherwise, else if we have a key not equal to undefined, and descriptor also not undefined, not equal to undefined, then all of them are available. So what do we need to do? Return bound method. So for that bound method, we pass our target. For the target, we pass the key. After key, we pass our descriptor. Otherwise, we just run in. We'll have invalid usage for the auto bind. So how we need to use this, we'll just come back to BI. Then now after getting there, we need to auto bind our target. Then we pass our target there. This should be able to do the trick. Now we can just so I'll wrap it up at this point. I'll have this in the channel and in the video description, so don't hesitate. I think if you find this interesting, don't hesitate to subscribe. So for now I'll head over to sleep. It's quite late on my end, so see you in the next one.